Okay, welcome to the Freedom Hustles podcast. My name's John Banks from sidingcommand.com. I'm with Andy Lehman, as always, from the freedomskillsacademy.com. This is episode 18.
Yep.
And today we're going to talk about sort of motivation and, why it's easy to quit. We totally get that. You might find that things aren't going too well, and you've had enough, and you're not getting the results you want, and why you shouldn't do that, and why we would advise, and hopefully throughout this podcast, that you might get some motivation and perhaps decide that you want to stay on and carry on doing what you're doing. I think we've all seen that image of the two guys sort of mining for diamonds, I think, and one of them's, I think he's at the top and he's doing all right and he's getting a few bits here and there, and the guy at the bottom's digging along and he's had enough and he's given up and he's not finding much. But little did he know that just behind that kind of, if he'd have just carried on for a few more, he would have found this, hoard of, stash of diamonds. So,
yeah, I love that image. You see it quite a bit on Facebook. I do like that one.
That sort of thing. So, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, Andy, how would you kind of sort of, set the stall out for this?
Right. There's one saying that I truly love, which I can't remember who said it. It says something along the lines of, it took a lot of work to become an overnight success. Yeah. And it's something I often try and think of, and that is a lot of people that you see on TV, a lot of the actors, the TV presenters, the TV chefs, the authors, they all seem to come out of nowhere, because once they've become successful, they're everywhere. They're on TV, they're in the news, on posters, they're in, they're everywhere. But basically, up to that point, you never see anything of them. And so you don't know of their failings or how many years they've been working. And there used to be a program that was called Before They Were Famous. And sometimes you would see some of the young actors and TV presenters and film stars doing stuff when they were younger and working their way in. And you think, oh, yeah, so they have been mastering their craft for many years. But it's not until they get that big break, then suddenly they're everywhere and everyone thinks they've just sort of bounced onto the scene. And I generally try and think of that as in the fact that happens with everything. There is the odd exception where you see the odd 21-year-old who's made a fortune on YouTube within 6 months, and those kind of products you'll see people selling those products online. They use the sales letters. I mean, I work in the industry where you'll see lots of sales letters. They're written purposely to try and get people are lazy, and so they try and get them to be lazy, and they suddenly think if they, you can make a lot of money or build a business within the next so many weeks, and so that's what they work for. And I think that often clouds people's judgment, and they don't actually realize that to build anything of substantial generally takes a lot of hard work. And I don't say it's a lot of hard work, but it takes a lot of turning up, a lot of sort of just basically discipline. I can't think of the word now, but there's you just turn up, do the work, keep cracking on. It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day. But going back to what you said earlier about the guy who's mining, he's been mining a tunnel, and then he gives up. He thinks, right, that's it, I'm just giving up. And you've got that extra foot before you just reach that big diamond. And they do say that a lot of people who could have been successful, who are potentially success waiting, they give up just at that point, just before they hit the sort of the mountain top. There's they're climbing up the mountain, they're just about to get up there, then they can snowball downwards, because generally they say that once success comes, it starts to snowball.
Yeah, and also I think it's a good point. I mean, as well, I think also as well, it also what people's definition of success is. I mean, a lot of people obviously go with the obvious one, money, and I want to be able to do what I want, and loads of freedom, and like we talk about here about ways to earn, side hustles and that. But it could be something completely different to that. It could be a personal goal of something, like a fitness challenge, or a sports challenge. If you're a golfer, you might want to try and get your handicap down, or I don't know. There's a whole load of stuff, but essentially the whole thing, like you say, is just turning up, and the majority of these people, with the odd exception of the silver spoon, rich Etonian elite people that I don't so much have time for, but the real success stories, they didn't just get it overnight. It didn't just happen overnight. You know what I mean? It isn't that simple, and it requires discipline. Like you say, for example, a sportsman. One of my idols when I was growing up was Michael Jordan. I was a massive basketball fan, and he to me was like, he was everything about that game, and the whole kind of the drive and his determination and the will to win, and the never giving up. And one of his famous, it's like a quote, if you like, or a statement, was that I've got it in front of me. He says, "I missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeeded." So, and people probably don't know about half of them stories, because all they see, like you say, is the highlight reel, of him winning, of him being the best, and all that. Whereas, actual fact, it's not like that, And it's the same in what we talk about a lot of on this show, and what we do, and sort of the online world, and trying to make a living on the internet, and or even not, just general sort of careers. But it does require that, unfortunately, the sort of daily drills, if you like, that the turning up every day. If you're going to write a blog, you cannot expect the first post to be your, it's just going to explode out the blocks, and that's it. You're going to be set.
You've got to be, you've got to be persistent. I mean, you've just given me a fantastic reminder of football, or as they call it, soccer in America. That strikers, the strike rate of a striker is they probably miss about 89. I mean, I'm making the statistics up, but they miss more goals than they actually score. They fail more than they actually win. And that's the difference is that most people give up. They don't like being failures. But in the same with business, I mean, I think Richard Branson was he's himself has said that people never pay attention to the failings I made. I made a lot of them because you only really idolize and celebrate the successes. But David Beckham is, again, another example. He scored some cracking sort of free kicks and penalties in World Cups and sort of European tournaments. But he would spend hours practicing, just kicking the ball in the same spot. So he would create a memory in his body, a memory in his mind. And he would do that constantly. And he used to talk about, I do remember seeing an interview with him when he was a young child playing football on Saturday Sunday League. And I think he said that part of his success was the fact that he was not necessarily any better than a lot of the other lads who were sort of playing on the Saturday, Sunday football teams. It's just that as they got older, a lot of those started to go and play with the girls. They'd go smoking, they'd go drinking, they'd go partying. He just carried on going to football Saturday and Sunday. He
missed out on a whole bit of his life for that.
He gave up his social life to focus on what he wanted. He was persistent. He turned up and he did what he needed to do. And then that reaped the rewards. So but yeah, like you said with Michael Jordan, people who are the professionals, if you actually, I think, statistically study their shots and their games, they fail more than they actually score and win.
I think if anyone's listening who hasn't seen it, there's an incredible documentary it was on Netflix actually, about Michael Jordan, and it's unbelievable. It spanned over about 6 or 7 episodes, and it follows the sort of last few years of his sort of when they were going for titles and this. I won't go into the detail, but it's unbelievably motivational. So like, we talk about blogs, we've talked about YouTube channels, anything, even to a degree what we're doing now, like a podcast. Although this is on on YouTube and various other platforms, still very much in its infancy. Only 18 or episode 18 now. You can't expect massive results that early on, and it's about persistence, like you say. It's about showing up. So I think there's a few little sort of tips here, a few little takeaways, and one of the ones that I used to do, especially when I was a lot more into blogging, and that would be kind of using a schedule and like building a sort of almost like planning out your week. I mean, we've talked about planners and things like that before. And it can be something as simple as like a routine, like, you're going to write every Monday and then you're going to publish every Wednesday. You know what I mean? You're going to write your post every Monday. So that's, it's set in stone. That's what you do on a Monday. You maybe do a couple of hours, 3 hours on a Monday evening, fine tune it on the Tuesday, and then you hit publish on the Wednesday. And again, if you did that every week, okay, you don't expect no results on the first couple of weeks. But if you did that every week, by the end of a year, you'd have a website with 52 articles on it. And that would be a great step towards gaining traction, like we've talked about before.
Lover or loather, Margaret Thatcher has been sort of recognised as one of the most important women of the last century. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But she said, there was a quote, and I paraphrase, it was something to do with plan your day, plan your everyday, or plan your day, plan every day, and work to your plan. Which is basically what, like you're saying, is that you have a plan for the day ahead, and you have a plan for every day. And when you get up and you start work, you work to that plan and just don't deviate. And I think that's one of the biggest problems as well we've done it ourselves. We're just as guilty. But I think a lot of desperation as well comes from that. If you're in a position where you're struggling financially or you're struggling with time and you need results and you think you need results fast, then you do tend to deviate from your plan because the next shiny object comes along, the next idea, and so you sort of leapfrog from one thing to another. But it is, a lot of the most successful people will often say that they have a plan. I mean, I think it was Earl Nightingale was asked about his time management, and he said, you can't manage time, but you can manage your tasks. And so he would have a list, I think, of so many tasks he would do. And I use something a little bit similar for keeping me motivated and keeping me going on. And I think it kind of works for me, and I think it could work for other people. And that is that if you're going to do something brand new, don't do something ridiculously big. So imagine you want to, you're feeling a bit weak. You've not done much exercise for many years, and you're feeling a bit tired. You need to think, I need to start getting some exercise. I need to build my body up. Instead of trying to go to the gym for an hour, in a day, so many days a week, because you've got to find a big chunk of time to go and do that. Try and spend 5 minutes doing some exercise, or choose 5 exercises to do, or do one exercise 5 times. Just do it in small chunks, because you're training your body to do something. You're training your mind to do something, and when you achieve something, you feel accomplished. You feel quite good. Once you start trying to find a big chunk of time to do something which is alien to you, and you fail, then it's easier to quit. So I often feel like doing things small. And so going back to the plan, that is, we talked about Margaret Thatcher and Earl Nightingale having their tasks. I try and have a task list of 5 things a day, and I try and work those 5 things off. Yeah. The good thing about doing this way is that if you do your 5 minutes, if you do your 5 exercises, if you do your 5 miles or your 5 pages, 5 hours, or whatever it is in your number of 5, once you've done that, then you can do another 5. It's easier to do another 5 and then another 5 if you can find the time. You can find the time to do 5 tasks. You can find the time to do 5 minutes. But you can't find as easy an hour or 2 to do something really hard, and especially until you've got used to doing it. And it's so alien to you. It's going to be a shock to the system, and it's easier to quit if you're trying to do too much too soon.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think as well, when you break stuff down like that, like the brain almost, there's like this psychological thing of completing tasks, isn't it? And it's sort of, you get that little reward. You get that sort of feeling of achievement, even if it is something small. That's why they say getting up, make the bed in the morning. First thing you should do is make the bed, because it's almost like straight away you've achieved something immediately, and that's your body's way of sort of saying, task complete. And then you can kind of start the rest of the day like that. And that's the same for in this sort of thing, you know, with regards to whether you're trying to, you know, build an online business, or if you're trying to learn something online, or if you're trying to, I don't know, build a website for the first time. You wouldn't just come straight out and go, right, build a website tonight immediately, unless you've never done it before. You know, you would literally break the whole thing down. Like you say, you do it into small tasks. You could do individual tasks. I used to work I still do if I'm doing a really, really solid project that I have to do, I break stuff into time. I like time chunks of 20 minutes. So, and again, I'd sort of reward myself every 20 minutes. If I do that solidly, no distractions, you know, then you can kind of look away and, I don't know, if you want to, I don't know, browse on the internet or go and make yourself a drink or whatever. But yeah, I mean, there are ways of doing it. I think, like you say, the task list method, if you break your tasks down in time, that's another way of doing it. Another thing we should point out as well, that we talked a little bit about the definitions of success. That may also not even be you. I mean, we're sort of assuming that this is the person that wants this, which obviously most often it is the case, but you never know. You might be having an impact on somebody else, whether you know it or not. You know, the way you are could be rubbing off really well on somebody else. It could be having a positive impact on your children or your family. You know, the way you behave, the way you sort of conduct yourself, the way your worth ethics, and, you know, your drive, and, you know, you're not giving up. Even if you don't make it your dream, right, it could still have a positive impact on the people who you are with, which again is worth, you know, that is a good thing. That is a positive thing. So it kind of, you know, it can have that effect.
You become an example to the next generation or somebody else, and you inspire them to do something else, which in many ways at first may not sound like it's, you might be thinking, well, I wanted this. But when you see somebody else being successful and they recognize you, it is quite a powerful effect. I mean, there was an old sort of philosophy, I can't remember particularly how it goes, but it says if you save one life, you save the universe. Because you might think everybody likes to do things in sort of big grand scale. You know, you'd like to donate the £100 million to the homeless, or you'd like to donate a huge amount to charity or something like that. But sometimes, like you say, just doing these small amounts helps a lot of people. Just talking to somebody on a bridge who thinks they're going to commit suicide can actually change a whole life, and has a knock-on effect to everybody else, which is in many ways is a very successful thing itself.
Huge. It may not be measurable as specific, you know, as I want to make, you know, £1 million by the 2030. That's measurable. But in this case, it's maybe not as, you know, but I still think it's really important.
I think I've seen a video, I'm sure it was a video online somewhere, of a guy who was at his graduation, and I think part of his graduation speech, he basically thanked a friend or a stranger. He was there, and he basically thanked him and just said, you know, on this certain day I was on my way home to kill myself, and if it wasn't for you stopping and helping, I think he dropped his books or something like that, but he stopped, helped, picked up his books and talked to him on the way home. And just that 10-minute, half-hour conversation and that small bit of kindness changed the whole direction of that guy's life.
Yeah, I had it years ago. I don't want to sort of go on about this years and years ago, say, I can't remember exactly, maybe 7 years ago, something like that. I was big into t-shirts on Teespring. I was selling t-shirts on Teespring, and I was in loads of Facebook groups. I knew nothing about it. I was just sort of threw myself in at the deep end. And I joined a couple of groups, and there was a load of like sort of dodgy, not scammers, but, you know, there were people in there who were trying to get you to buy their course and all that, when they didn't really know what they were doing themselves. But it was happening everywhere, and unfortunately it still is now. And this random guy, just out of the blue, just messaged me and went, I'd watch out for them. By the way, they're only going to try and sell their course. However, I've seen some of your designs. These look great. And he was a massive t-shirt seller. And he gave me a load of tips just out of the blue. And his name was Kieran, I remember. And I didn't know him. I wasn't a friend of his. And for weeks, we chatted just on Messenger. And he taught me about, like Facebook ads and how to, learn about like the analytics and measuring your costs and this, that, and the other. And I remember my first campaign that I ran after sort of doing all that. I think I made like, I don't know, like $500 or something like that. And I was blown away. And it was all down to this guy, a complete random dude, random stranger. And he died a couple of years ago because we become friends on there, like Facebook friends.
I didn't know that.
He died in a snowboarding accident. And I was like, and I was a bit kind of blown away by it, but it touched a nerve because he just out of nowhere, for no reason at all, decided to just help me out, and I thought, what a decent bloke. But yeah, so I guess and as well, that kind of leads me on to masterminds and, why we speak. We don't live down the road from each other. We live, almost at opposite ends of England anyway. Yet we become good friends over like the online space. And why we do these podcasts is, one, to obviously share our knowledge to other people to listen to, but also to kind of keep each other motivated and keep going, don't we, really?
Yeah, you need to talk. And just for, even if it's not talking business, just talking between the two of us kind of gives you a bit of a pep talk. And especially with like the coronavirus lockdown, people need to be talking and sort of communicating. But from a business point of view as well, is it that when you can bounce off ideas with other people and get different ideas, other ideas grow. You kind of like, I think the mastermind is like having, they talk about it's like having a cell. I use the word American cell because the cell is individual. It's like having a cell, and then you're hooking up another cell and another cell, and eventually you would create a battery which is far more powerful than the individual cell. Yeah. And so the reason why mastermind groups are very popular and why they always say, should we try and get a mentor or at least talk to other people who are in a similar situation as you, if not slightly higher, is that you can all basically you amplify your sort of thoughts and your opinions and ideas, and they become a lot quicker. And you get some great ideas bouncing off people when you sort of sat and talking. So I mean, if you're trying to do something on your own and you're struggling with motivation and you're kind of struggling to keep going, then it is definitely worth trying to get an accountability buddy. Someone, even if they're not as accountable as in the fact that you say you're going to do 5 tasks, and then they next day say, did you get your 5 tasks done? It's nice having somebody who you're accountable to, because for some strange reason, you'll always get out of bed and walk to work for someone that you don't particularly like, for a job you don't want to do, because you fear getting sacked. Then it's easier to do that than actually get out of bed and work for yourself. Yeah, we seem to need somebody else to sort of give you the proverbial kick or the arse. Right, so having an accountable buddy like we've got in many ways, like I say, you don't have to hold yourself strictly accountable, but having someone who you can talk to and bounce ideas off as well is just as good.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah, I think that's really important. And on that note, I mean, there's a whole ton of stuff out there. There's a whole load of books on this, sort of motivational books. And I quite often listen to TED Talks, and there's a guy called Simon Sinek who is quite popular in that sort of field. But, I mean, my sort of closing thoughts really would be, like we've sort of mentioned on the pod, but number one for me is, break stuff down immediately. Otherwise, the whole thing just becomes too overwhelming and daunting. And just small chunks, just keep chipping away, building bricks, laying bricks, and then eventually, you get that break. And that's kind of what we all hope for. Any thoughts?
Yeah, for me, the word perseverance is very important, and I think there's some sort of valuable things that people should need to sort of recognize and try and get into their heads, and that is very few things happen straight away. You got a farmer plants seeds, waits months for anything to grow. With a business, you can't just suddenly expect it to happen quickly, no matter what the sales letter or the webinar says and all that lot. It can happen, but basically just be realistic and know that you're going to get something if you keep working at it. If you don't keep working at it, you're not going to get anything. But it ain't going to happen straight away. You just have to keep going on. Also, if you're doubting yourself, don't, because basically doubt is a human emotion that most people have. There's always going to be someone who doesn't like you. There's always going to be the haters. Don't let them stop you. Just keep working at something eventually something's going to happen. Because I've often thought, even if you spend all your life, like you said, you may not get what you want. If you spend all your life playing football and you want to be a premier footballer, but it doesn't particularly happen for you, you might end up with a job where you become a TV presenter talking about football. So you'll end up mixing with the footballers, being paid to go and watch the games. Or you could be a journalist who gets sent to Barcelona to watch the European matches. Whatever happens, you'll still end up with something which is far better than what you've got now, just because you kept on persevering.
Or live in the world of I wish and regret and if only I'd have done that. And at least you had a go, like you say, yeah. Okay, well, yeah. I think we'll close on that. So again, thanks very much for listening. Any comments, thoughts, anything like that, just email us. We'll drop the links in below. So thanks very much for listening, and we will see you on the next show.
Yep. Thank you very much. See you later. Bye-bye.